Stangibelisco here, proprietor and operator of amateur radio station W1GV, Whiskey 1 Good Vibrations, primarily a CW operator, and I would just like to tell you how to zero beat a station that you want to talk to, or code to, or whatever. You know how it goes. Most transceivers these days have a CW sidetone which corresponds to the extent to which the receiver frequency and the transmitter frequency differ. Now in my case, I set my sidetone to 688 Hertz. I was shooting for around 700 Hertz, and it turns out it actually measures at 688. But the point is that my transceiver, the ICOM IC746 Pro, and most transceivers like it since then, have an offset that is equal to the tone or the pitch of the CW sidetone. So this thing appears to receive in the upper sideband mode. That is to say, all of the stations I hear are higher in frequency than that of my receiver. When I transmit, I hear the tone, da 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 da. It's 688 Hertz. That frequency is the zero frequency of the transmitter, which is 688 Hertz higher than the zero frequency of the receiver. That is to say, the frequency at which the pitch of the tone would be zero. So if I want to zero beat a station, I simply turn the thing to break-in mode off, so that when I transmit CW, all I'm really transmitting is the tone to myself, and I can simply adjust the radio then and make it so that the tone that comes out of the radio as I'm sending, da-da-da-da, 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 zero beats audio-wise with the tone that comes out from the station that I want to call. Now that's not for DX communication, that's for casual rag chewing or general, just brief QSOing, testing antennas, things like that. Most transceivers are like that. If I were to change the CW pitch to say 500 Hertz instead, then the difference between the transmitter and receiver frequency would become 500 Hertz, but I would still zero beat the same way. And that's how you can tell that you are zero beat with the station that you are communicating with. Now that's in most sophisticated digital equipped transceivers. Some of the more primitive ones or older ones, you still have to use the spot mode and turn the transmitter oscillator on with the amplifiers off so that you can hear your transmitted signal in your receiver, but it won't get actually sent out over the air. That used to be the case with my Drake R4A and T4X radios, separate receiver and transmitter, way back in the 1970s when I was in college and would come home on weekends or to operate the ham radio in what I called the lab rather than the nerd cave, and which was the fallout shelter for our house, which we used as a tornado shelter, figuring it'd protect us from the falling house but wouldn't give us any way to get out of there once the house was collapsed around it. Fortunately, none of that stuff ever happened, but that's how we zero beat our stations nowadays, usually, under most circumstances. As I've mentioned before, when you're working DX, you do not want to zero beat the DX station, because if you do, and you happen to call that station when that station is transmitting, you will be zero beat with that station and interfere with Lord knows how many dozens or hundreds of other operators who are trying to listen to that DX station, and they'll all hate you. They'll all call you a lid, or worse. But you can avoid all that just by paying attention to where your transmitter frequency is. Not only do you have to know where it is to be a good operator, you have to know where it is in a lot of cases to stay within the FCC regulations and not break the law by transmitting outside of the band. Stan Gibilisco signing off, saying 73, which means best regards in ham radio jargon. Until next time, so long.